on blast.
And we are live. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, my name is Sheldon Alexander, and this episode of Wrap It Up is brought to you by Clean Cuts Barbershop, 2013 Danforth Avenue in the east end of Toronto. Clean Cuts, the multicultural barbers that will always keep you fresh for any and all occasions. So go see Skip and the crew. As a wise man once said, tell them that I sent you. Check them out on Instagram at Clean Cuts Toronto or give them a call, 416-917-4833 to book your appointment now. Well, Mr. Bellamo, what is going on? How you doing, man?
I'm good. Dwane Casey, you are 3-0 against your former team. You, sir, deserve a green beer.
He does. Dwane Casey earned himself a beverage, a fine beverage after this game, as the Detroit Pistons beat the Raptors for the third time this season, 110-107. Again, Dwane Casey and the Pistons beat his former team.
Undefeated,
3-0. So I'm going to start here, and I'm going to ask this question, and I'm going to let people filter in with the answers before we get to the game.
This is going to be a big, we're going to need your input on this one, too, because it's a lot of opinions.
If this ends up being a first-round matchup of the playoffs, should Raptor fans, are you worried about facing the Pistons and Dwane Casey in the playoffs if this becomes a matchup? Because the Pistons are now 3-0 against the Raps. That is my question that I will ask you guys as fans, and I will start by asking you, Mr. Bellamo, the same thing, and we will read your comments and take your questions, comments, and concerns. Because again, as mentioned, I'd like to welcome everyone to the Wrap It Up podcast. Shouts to the people that are watching live on Twitter at Shell Alexander. Click in, you'll end up on Periscope. Take your comments, questions, and concerns there. Also, shouts to the people on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. And a big shout out to the podcast crew. Whether you listen on SoundCloud, Google Play, iTunes, or of course YouTube. Shout out to all you guys. Really appreciate it for you guys coming through and making the show what it is. Liking, sharing, subscribing. Really appreciate it, guys. Would have appreciated a better performance from the Toronto Raptors today, though. I got to say that.
So would have I.
Mr. Bellamo, should the Raptors be worried about playing the Pistons in the first round of the playoffs?
Yes, this is why. When you're a legitimate contender, as the Raptors are, the first round is always pressure-packed because you don't want to get bounced. The Raptors have legitimate aspirations to go to the finals. In the first round, no matter who they play, you're going to kind of get a little gut-wrenching, right? You don't want to be that team that gets kicked out. What would Kawhi do? On top of that, you throw in a Detroit team that's 3-0 against them. You throw in a surgeon, Blake Griffin, who's no more the player that is highlighted by dunks. He's playing great. And then you throw in Coach Casey, who's definitely got the upper hand on Coach Nurse. And it just looks like he knows what to do, the moves. And listen, I'm not sitting here saying the Raptors are doomed if they play them. I'm just saying, no matter who the Raptors play in the first round, because of the high expectations, it's going to be one of those weird series. But when you add Detroit, who's played really well against them, I do have a little bit of a cause for concern.
So, I mean, you're not the only one. There's a lot of people here. There's a lot of comments here in the chat as well. Someone here on Twitter says, I wish we still had Coach Casey as a coach. Wow.
I mean, a lot of people do, but
someone here on Instagram says team load management. Another comment here says Casey gonna be talking mad shit now. Here's my thing. Okay, I'm not worried because here's the thing. We were talking about this before, and and again, this is the main reason why we do this podcast is to have the conversation. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm not saying the people are wrong.
Everyone's opinion.
We're all here to have the conversation about what's going on with the Toronto Raptors against the Detroit Pistons. And hey, I get made fun of it in the Instagram chat, so I'm prepared to hear the backlash already.
Sheldon
load
management Alexander.
Right? But here's what I'm gonna say why I want people to relax a little, okay? So yes, Pistons have won 3 games against the Toronto Raptors. We know that obviously Coach Casey and Nick Nurse know each other's playbooks.
Mm-hmm.
We know that already. The first thing I'll say is I'm not worried about playing the Pistons. I think the Raptors would beat them in 5 games max if they met up in the playoffs.
Yeah.
Now, if I'm Coach Casey, you're more than happy with these 3 wins. But in reality, if we go back to the first game, they won on a buzzer beater.
Yes.
That buzzer beater win also came in a game where the Raptors were up by 20, took their foot off the pedal. Pistons come back, win at the buzzer.
Mm-hmm.
Cool. Second game, the Pistons win. Kawhi Leonard didn't play. Pistons won in overtime. Cool. Still a win. You're playing who's in front of you. No problem. Third game tonight, the Raptors didn't play well. Right?
No.
They didn't play well. They didn't deserve to play to win the game. They shot
They
well.
didn't play well, though.
They had moments where they looked really good. And I feel like there's 2 main reasons the Raptors lost this game was the bench and also, well, the bench, meaning Jeremy Lin, but we'll get to that in a bit.
Yep.
And also just down the stretch, I thought they stopped running offense. The starters were really successful with ball movement.
Yes.
That's when the team looked the best this whole game.
Yep.
And then down the stretch, that just stopped for whatever reason.
It went to the
It was
ISO.
ISO Kawhi, ISO Siakam.
And Siakam's
Tough
somewhat
shot.
crazy shots,
Yeah, tough
You
shot after
pointed out a
tough
few.
shot,
Yep.
and the Raptors lose. So those are the 3 games they've won. But let's also remember the Raptors don't have Kyle Lowry and Serge Ibaka playing in this game. So when I add all these things together, and
Fred's first game back.
Fred's first game back, also true. When I add all those things together, and I also want to add in this fact to Raptors fans, okay? I've been saying this. We're not used to the regular season not mattering. We're not used to that, right? All regular season games aren't created equally, and we're not used to the regular season, as Kawhi Leonard put it, being just practices.
Now, wait. Do you mean just because I have seen when you've said that before, I read the comments, a couple guys are commenting.
Yeah.
So what you mean, I'm not paraphrasing, but what you mean is not mattering at this moment, because at the beginning of the season it matters, but just not mattering in this stretch because you're pretty much stuck in the second seed, right? Okay.
I just believe that not all regular season games are created equally.
Yes.
So start of the year, cool. You're trying to see how the team
before the
gels, how
All-Star
the team
break,
works.
just after the All-Star break.
You have certain games on the schedule. You're playing against Golden State. You're playing against the big boy games. That matters. Now, you would think that, hey, you would get up for a game against a former coach, but really, how many dudes is this a former coach? Like, Kawhi Leonard doesn't care about Dwane Casey.
Yeah, he is.
Gasol doesn't care about Dwane Casey. Kyle's not playing. Serge isn't playing. Whatever. My point is, all regular season games aren't created equally, and what that means is, when you get to the playoffs, every possession matters. When you watch this Raptors team, and it's a Raptors team now that's filled with vets, you have different gears. And I'm comparing the Raptors of the past to the Milwaukee Bucks that you're seeing now.
Yes.
In the terms that the regular season matters because it's your first taste of consistent success.
For Milwaukee, yeah.
Yeah, so every game matters. You're going all out, night in, night out. You're going all out because you're not
new to
used.
you.
Yeah, it's brand new.
New for the fans.
For sure. But the Toronto Raptors right now are 1 win away from their 4th straight 50-game season.
Yeah.
And even if you go the 2 years before that, they won 49 and 48 games.
Yep.
So that's 6 straight years of playoff success.
Sorry, you said 49, 48. You mean 59.
No. So they won 4 straight seasons. They won 50 games.
Okay.
And the 2 seasons before that, they won 48 games and 49 games.
Okay.
So 6 straight years of winning at least 48 games in a season, right? What have we learned over that stretch? Doesn't matter where you fall in the regular season. Doesn't matter what your seeding is. None of those things matter anymore because now it's about the playoffs.
Game 1, it all starts over again.
Which means in reality, you have to change gears a lot in the regular season, right? You get up for big boy games. We've seen that to the extreme with all the load management games and Kawhi missing games, but also just even within the game, you see it in stretches where they're not going all out defensively. And I'm not saying that's good. And hey, could they get caught in the playoffs because, they haven't had enough time together? Sure, that's a possibility.
Yeah.
But I think what it comes down to is your young guys. That's what your young guys, right? Your young guys now are the difference from your veteran players who Marc Gasol, Kawhi, Danny Green, Kyle, those guys got to pace themselves through the regular season.
Yeah.
That's just where we are with this team. So I'm not worried. Because I think once the playoffs come, the Raptors are going to have their full team. Jeremy Lin's not going to play, right?
God.
And with the Raptors' full team running out 8 guys and going hard on both ends defensively, like Andre Drummond's dunking and yelling and shit, like this is their championship.
And
again.
if the young guys are out there, there's gonna be 2 or 3 veterans with them in the lineup. It's not gonna be a bench filled with the young guys too, right?
Yeah, I just think that it's not like. Don't get me wrong, you don't want to lose these games, but my point is, it's not the end of the world. It's all right. I'm not worried because I just think that, cool, the Pistons are beating you with their team, but you don't have 2 of your top, 5, 6 rotation guys in terms of Kyle Lowry.
Every
and
game we
Ibaka.
played them, either Kawhi,
exactly.
or Kyle.
So again, all regular season games aren't created equally. These games clearly matter a lot more to Dwane Casey than they do to the Raptors, just because of where they are in the standings. And you saw it in this game. There's still enough spurts where I saw enough positives from the Raptors starters together that it made enough sense that, hey, things are going to be all right. It was just fixable things.
Yeah.
Like the ISO ball stuff at the end.
Yeah.
I brought it up to you when we saw it. There's a play at the very end where Kawhi has the ball and Detroit is blatantly squaring their defense
All on.
to have 3 guys at Kawhi. And Gasol is trying to tell Pascal to cut.
And Pascal's not moving.
And he's not moving. He stood there.
He got the ball.
Turnover. Right? And it's just, those are fixable things. You
Now,
go back, you watch film, and everything's going to be all right.
You mentioned with Gasol, he was very vocal. I know around I think by halftime he was leading the team in minutes.
Yeah.
Was this Gasol's best game in a Raptor uniform?
It was up there. I mean, he finished with 9 points,
Almost a
11
triple-double.
rebounds, 8 assists. It's up there. It's one of them for sure. But again, he only took 7 shots in this game. And I still think that he has to get at least 10 shots per game to be his max, peak performance if you're the Toronto Raptors. But he looked really good, and he's getting acclimated to the offense in the sense that, if you go back to the beginning of the game, Kawhi really started off slow. Raptors as a team started off 1 of 8. Is really a bad start for the Toronto Raptors. And early on, Kawhi Leonard didn't even hit a field goal for the longest time. And there's a play where Kawhi was posting up. Gasol tried to throw him the pass, and it was a turnover. And Kawhi was kind of like, no, throw it up, which is still what we're talking about. Chemistry is going to take time.
Yeah, that's going to mesh eventually.
Yeah. Next time down the floor, what happens? Fred VanVleet runs a pick and roll with Marc Gasol, passes it Gasol. Gasol in the Serge Ibaka spot where Serge is going to take that jumper.
Yeah.
Right? He gets the ball, and what's he do? Kawhi cuts to the basket, dumps it right underneath, layup Kawhi. That's his first field goal of the game. Next time down the floor, Kawhi hits a 3. Exactly. Gets Kawhi going, and we know Kawhi Leonard had a great game. He had, 17, I said, in the first
17 in the first
or something
half,
like that, in the first half.
And then he went on a personal little mini run to start the third, and that's where the Raptors kind of pulled away.
Yes. Great game by Kawhi Leonard. He had 33 points on 11 of 21 shooting, 5 of 8 from 3. Kawhi, in fact, has 5 3-pointers in each of his last 2 games, which is pretty crazy. Yeah. Kawhi also adding in with 10 rebounds in this game.
Yeah.
Again, there were spurts where this Raptors team looked really, really good, and that's where I'm like, okay, that's fine.
Yes.
The places where they really struggled, the bench. And if you follow this podcast,
Jeremy Lin.
Yeah, but so I guess I should mention that. Jeremy Lin started this game.
Yes.
It was Fred VanVleet's first game back from injury. Jeremy Lin started, but then he struggled really badly in the first half. That led to the second half where VanVleet started in his place. Freddie had a great game in his first game back. He was second best Raptor in this game behind Kawhi.
Yep.
He finished with 17 points, 4 assists in this game, 4 of 5 from three-point land. And he just shows that once you remove Jeremy Lin out of the equation, but you move into that backup point guard spot where if you can knock down open threes, you can be really successful.
Open the floor more.
But what did you think of Freddie in this game?
Well, I mean, probably the plan was for Nurse to ease him in. Of course, with Jeremy Lin starting. Mm-hmm. But that didn't go to plan.
Yeah.
And I mean, it was a big boy game for him to tell coach, okay, I'm good to go.
Yeah.
Coming in the second half and really handle the ball, distribute it, and like you said, shoot well and kind of take the pressure off Kawhi, who started cooking there, and then they started double and teaming him, right? So we opened the floor a bit. And it, like you said, this hopefully, well, not hopefully, but this is going to start to spell the end of Jeremy Lin's minutes. And then when you get Kyle back, it's going to be a nice perfect blend there with Freddie and Kyle going forward.
Yeah, I definitely think it's one thing where, to me, Jeremy Lin struggled, but it was a tough position for him to be in because at the end of the day, most of the time when you're with the bench, you're playing with consistent guys.
Yeah.
The Raptors never had consistency in any form when you really break it down with anyone in their lineup.
OG as well.
But with their bench especially, right?
Yeah.
There was no consistent bench minutes for anyone just because the way that it worked, I mean, you had guys in and out of the lineup, meaning if Kyle's out, well, now someone has to start.
Yeah.
If Kawhi's out, well, now someone has to start. So there wasn't the consistent Jeremy Lin with Fred and OG. Or sorry, not Fred. Well, yeah, with Fred and OG or with Norm and OG. Like, that consistency never was there.
Yeah.
And when you're doing that with bench guys who aren't as good as starters, and I'm doing air quotes because it's the NBA, everybody's good, but you know what I mean? There's different levels. It just makes it more difficult for you to find consistency because the reason why guys are bench players is because they're inconsistent.
Of course.
Right? So it was a tough spot for Jeremy Lin, but the other thing is Nurse, and normally throughout the year, if you follow this podcast, one of the things that I will be honest about, that I've been unfair about, is Nurse's rotations and how he's been using the bench and leaving the bench out there for way too long.
Way too long.
And that happened in this game, right? One of the reasons I think they lost this game was because in the first half, in that second quarter, there was a very long run where the Raptors...
With Moreland in there, right?
Yeah. They had a run there where it was a bench of Fred VanVleet, Norm, OG, McCaw, and Moreland. And over that stretch, Detroit went on a 9-0 run. The only points the Raptors got, they ended up getting a 3, which was by Moreland. That was like, he jacked it up at the end just because he had to, and it went in.
Yeah.
So the bench really played poorly there, and that wasn't a good look for the Raps. And when you think about, normally when I'm crushing them, saying like, oh, that's not good and whatever, and the Pistons close on this 10-2 run, I kind of, in this instance, understand what Nurse is doing.
Yes.
Because now, OG, Norm, Jeremy Lin, Fred VanVleet, McCaw, those guys are now all fighting for playoff minutes.
Yep.
And so I understand him having a longer leash in these games.
He's going to be his guys at the end of the bench.
Exactly.
In the playoffs.
Exactly. So normally when I think that, hey, why is the bench in for so long? And I'm the first one to say, can't do that. You got to stagger
You said it's
Gasol.
practice, yeah.
I've been saying you got to stagger Gasol, Siakam, and Kawhi. Stagger their minutes. Have two of them on at the same
All the time.
That's what I would normally say. But in this instance, I actually understand what he's doing. You're getting to that moment where it's got to be, okay, who can we trust come
And
playoff time?
going forward, is that what you think? Going forward for the rest of the season?
I think so.
Similar to what he did today?
Because I think you're going to have games where you're going to rest Danny Green, just make sure that he's fresh. We know Kawhi's probably not going to play tomorrow against the Knicks. Second night of a
That's
back-to-back.
game 5 low management since my over-under.
Right?
Just keeping tabs, guys.
Hey, I was wrong. I like to think, one thing I do on this podcast, I will come on and admit when I'm wrong,
it's
right?
okay, yeah.
I was wrong about the load management and how many games Kawhi would miss post-All-Star break. I just think that when you look at what this team, what Nick Nurse did, he gave extended minutes to Moreland, who, and it's really unfair if you think about it, Moreland and Fred VanVleet getting like serious minutes together.
Yeah.
Now, Fred's obviously hasn't played with Moreland. Moreland's playing in his second game as a Raptor.
And obviously hasn't played for weeks, too. So
Fred hasn't
he's
played
just getting
for weeks,
adjusted.
right? Fred hasn't played for weeks, but now you're done with that lineup out there.
Yeah.
That's going to be tough. That's going to be tough. And so I see what Nurse was trying to do, and the same thing happened because third quarter, how good did that Raptors team look? When everyone, the ball was moving, they're hitting threes. You talked about it. You were getting hyped up when the threes were falling.
Like, Kawhi was just chucking them up and letting them draining them. Danny Green too, right? And Gasol was getting the ball movement, and then they went on a little run, made it up by about 10.
Yeah.
And then a little man named Ish Smith from Detroit came out and just was grabbing tons of rebounds, and then that's what started the whole comeback for Detroit there.
Yeah. And then once Detroit, you mentioned it, the Raps went on a run. I think it was like an 11-3 run.
Yeah, they had about a 10-point lead in the third,
Yeah, and it was all just great ball movement, great passing.
The no-look by Gasol right to the corner of the Kawhi.
Yep, had another one, as you
Yep.
mentioned, to Danny Green, and it was just drive and kick, multiple passes, guys getting open shots. And hey, this is for the people that were actually watching the full game. I'm going to say this
Yep.
because we have Raptors fans that'll tune in and like chirp, 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 but they didn't watch the full game.
Yes.
Okay. When I'm saying that Marc Gasol fits so much better in the starting lineup, these are the games that I'm talking about because offense was stalling. He's trying to get ball movement to be a major.
He was very vocal.
Yes. And trying to move the ball, trying to get the ball moving so the offense didn't stall. What was one of the first things you said to me when we were watching it? You said, man, I haven't seen a Kawhi ISO
Yes.
at all
Well,
during those runs.
I said whenever Gasol is on the floor with Kawhi, there's very little ISOs.
Yeah.
It's because Mark's so good without the ball, where he's going to be trying to set picks or something. And even though his shot from beyond the arc isn't really falling yet, he's still got that reputation where he can get, they'll come at him where he can get that pass to the open guy, right?
Yeah.
So that's where he's so dangerous too. And if he has the open shot, he'll most likely drain it.
Yeah. No, that's interesting. It's very interesting. I think Gasol's done a really good job. Just as you mentioned, man, like it's just you can't have those breakdowns because Kawhi then drives to the basket, which is what the complete opposite of what you were just talking about is how the Raps ended the game, right? It was all like tough drives. Kawhi's driving into like 3 or 4 guys, getting fouled but
Steal
can't
by
get the ball
Drummond,
up.
yep.
Same thing with Siakam trying to drive into 3 guys, and it's
Yep.
just not good offense.
No.
And especially when you don't have Kyle Lowry out there, because Kyle Lowry's just another person who can create a
And
shot
find
for
a
someone
guy,
else.
yeah. Even if you have Siakam who's just standing there and Mark's yelling at him, or some guys that they're not knowing what to do, Kyle's going to find you.
Yes.
Right? And
Yep.
that's what he does best.
Yeah. So it just wasn't a good look for the Raps down the stretch. But let's get to some comments here.
Yeah,
Someone
what's
on
up,
Twitter
guys?
says, I understand we've never been at full strength, but Pascal's inability to guard Blake is a thing.
Good point. Good. That's a good comment. I was going to say that. I was waiting for you to maybe ask me what I thought about Siakam's game, but he got burned
Yeah.
by Griffin tonight.
Yeah. Blake
And
Griffin,
it kept, even if he wasn't on him, they kept switching to make Siakam on him.
and to me, the problem with that, what ends up happening is now Siakam, after Blake Griffin goes at him how many times and scores,
Yeah.
now Siakam thinks, I got to come back down the court
And do it.
and go back
and that's
at
when
Blake.
he does an unorthodox shot.
Yes, and that's when he got into
Rings
problems.
out. Yeah.
Siakam went 12 points on 6 of 13 shooting, and I know people are
His
going to say,
maturity needs to.
well, people are going to say 6 of 13 isn't
It's
bad,
50%. Yeah.
but like if you have more field goal attempts than you have points, that's not good.
Yeah.
That's my opinion. I'm always gonna I'm always gonna go there. But the defense, you're right. Blake Griffin, it's one of those things where it's a gift and the curse of Siakam's season because you're having so much success as being a great role player,
yeah.
and we're seeing the flashes, and it's making everyone think, man, superstar, all-star, blah 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 blah. And it's like,
Even-
no. For this team,
Yes.
for this team at its peak powers, they need you to knock down open threes, play dope ass defense,
Yep.
and be hella active,
Yep.
especially on the defensive end.
Yes.
But hella active all over the floor.
Yep.
The ISOs and all that stuff isn't necessarily what this team needs or Pascal Siakam to do right now. But it's tough because you kind of got to let him go.
Yeah.
Because that's what's made him
I
good.
mean, his ball handling, it's exceptional for, a lengthy guy. The corner three is great.
Yeah.
I mean, you got the hottest athlete in the last couple of days, Odell Beckham Jr.,
Yeah.
wearing your jersey. I mean, the blow up is real, right? But you're right, and you've been saying it for podcasts and podcasts and podcasts that it's just the maturity of his shots. He needs to learn his shot selection just a little bit better. And that I'm not saying that's never going to come. That's going to come. So that's a little bit more to be excited about. But yeah, he's in a great position where he can get away with those mistakes.
Yeah.
Right?
And it's fixable.
Yes,
Right? And
it is,
that's
yeah.
the most important part.
And you're right. You don't want to stop him because we like you said, we're in that position where we can let him go out. And majority of the times he hits them.
Yeah.
But
you know what? It's probably
it's
somewhere.
got to be up here sometime.
You know what's funny? It's probably somewhere in the middle too, because I think about how many times I watch things that Siakam does, where Casey would probably be like, sub out.
Yes,
Right?
yeah.
So like, it's you got to find like somewhere in the middle.
Yeah.
And Nick Nurse, with this obviously being his first coaching gig, like head coaching gig in this situation with the stakes this high.
Yep.
Dealing with the Kawhi Leonard load management, night in, night out. Sometimes you need that Siakam to go out and cook.
You don't want him to be timid one game and then, right?
You need him to go out there when there's no Kyle or there's no Kawhi, because you need those buckets.
Like he has 40-point nights.
But I think
25-point nights.
In my personal opinion, I definitely think that sometimes in the offense, especially in the half court, I'd rather see the dump down to Gasol getting a touch in the half court as opposed to a Siakam ISO.
Yeah.
That's just me. And again, listen to what I'm saying. In the half court, I'm not saying overall, hey, hustle, run up and down the court, get the leak outs, do all that. I'm saying when the offense breaks down and you're in the half court set, I'd rather see the ball get dumped into Gasol than just Siakam getting the ball and barreling towards the basket, throwing it up over three guys.
I mean, Siakam, and the reason I'm saying this because I'm going to get to the other point that I have. Siakam, he knows who he is, right? And like I said, it's just a maturity thing. But one other player that I mentioned to you, who I don't think he's found his identity yet and knows really what he is OG.
Yeah.
To me, OG is a slasher, a very athletic NBA player, and he should go to the net more. But he seems to think he's a shooter. And hey, I'm giving the kid credit. Like I've said this before, even if he's 0 for 10, he'll still shoot. But he needs to find that mix of getting to the net, getting fouls, getting defenders to come to you, to getting an open guy who can actually shoot that three. You know what I mean? Instead of him being the guy in the corner waiting for the ball. Yeah. It's just the useless way of just a useless body that is so athletic.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, totally. Totally get it. And you mentioned the Siakam being so successful because he's just super active.
Exactly.
And whether it's on the offensive glass, running the floor, defensively, turning your defense to offense. And again, it's all about energy and where you decide to use your energy. And Pascal Siakam, sometimes I think what we're seeing is the offensive energy, or sometimes it's like the lapse on defense.
Yeah.
To give like, oh, I got an ISO score on offense. It's like, no, we don't need that yet.
Yeah.
Chill out. What we need,
have that guy,
especially against Blake Griffin, right? We need your defense on Blake Griffin.
Yes.
That's way more important in this situation. And Blake Griffin is going to continually win that matchup. I mean, 25 points tonight for Blake.
He's on this year, man.
4 of 8 from 3 for Blake, 8 rebounds. And especially with Detroit, another reason why I think Detroit's done well against the Raptors is because of their front line of Blake Griffin and Andre Drummond. If there's a weakness to the Raptors, it's their small up front, especially if you're starting Serge and Siakam.
Yeah, they went small, I think, in the third quarter, too, when Kawhi just got checked in. Yeah.
So Gasol helps that a bit, but at the end of the day, you still have 15 and 17 from Andre Drummond. Yeah. And when you have Drummond and Blake as your front line, most often than not, you're going to win on the boards.
And then their small guys are little energy guys, too, right?
Let's get to some comments here, though, because I did ask a question. Are Raptors fans be worried about playing against the Pistons? Someone here says, one comment here says, that game was pretty ugly, but in the end, it doesn't matter. As long as we're healthy going into the playoffs, we'll be fine. Another commenter says, yes, I am worried. Following comment says, I'm not worried because the Raptors are only playing 8 mans, bench frauds, warming seats, and having beverages. That kind of leads to another good question here that I saw on Twitter from Matthew. Matthew asks, who do you think will be in our 8 to 9 man rotation in the playoffs?
Ooh.
I have thought about this, and I feel like I think the starters, let me know if you agree or not, but this is where I'm going with this.
Okay.
The starters, I'm going to say Gasol should start, right?
Yeah.
So we know who the starters are. Coming off the bench, I think you go 8, 9 max.
Yeah.
But so that means 3 or 4 guys off the bench. And I'm giving those minutes to Fred, Serge, Norm.
Norm, yeah.
And then it's got to be one of McCaw or OG. And with those two guys,
leaning to McCaw right now.
With those two guys, though, I'm telling them when you get on the floor, you are
work your
guarding
ass off.
full court. You're playing hella defense, hard pressure, full court pressure. trying to get turnovers.
And you don't need the offense from your guy, hustle and defense from your 8 guy. And right now, McCaw has the lead.
Yeah.
He's a stretch, put his arms in, he gets steals, he creates breaks, right? And he's been there before, albeit not a starter or a heavy minute guy for Golden State, but he's been there. And he's been coached by and he's familiar with that role where, like I said, back to my point, OG doesn't really know who he is as a player yet, himself, and we need to figure that out now. So while he's figuring it out, take a seat back, 8th guy, and get McCaw for 5-6 minutes, right?
Also, too, I just think that, as you're mentioning with OG here, when you can't figure that out, one thing that will never go stale, one thing that your coach will never be mad about is working hard on defense.
Yep.
You don't have to, and even using McCaw as the example, what does he do so well on offense? It's moving the ball.
Yeah.
You don't have to take that shot, and this is the hole I think that OG and sometimes Siakam find themselves in. They're just shooting because they haven't shot the ball in a while.
Yeah, exactly. And the defender's gonna know you're gonna shoot when you keep consistently doing it, right? So what McCaw is exactly, he'll find the open guy, but they also think that he might shoot as well, right?
Yeah, and so to me though, those 3 guys off the bench for sure, it's going to be Serge, Fred, Van Fleet, and Norm. I think those are your 8 guys off the bench, with that last spot going to, if you get to 9, it's either OG or McCaw. No, just OG or McCaw. I think that's where it's going to. But again, the reason why I'm going with Norm is, Fred's Fred.
Yes, Fred. Oh, yeah. He was, like you said, he was one of our most important Raptors last year.
For sure. So
he dropped off, but not that much, right?
Having him come off the bench, I think really makes your team go. He's going to give energy. You know what you're going to get from Fred. Yes. The shots might not fall every night, but he's giving you energy. He's going to give you a different change of pace off the bench. He can give you shooting on a good night. Norm, we know about Norm in the playoffs. Norm's not shook. And if Norm's shot's not falling, we at least know that he's going to bring energy, and we're okay with that. And then Ibaka or Gasol.
Yeah.
So I'm okay with that rotation. Jeremy Lin, it's why the whole time when everyone's like, Jeremy Lin was bad, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, Jeremy Lin's not going to matter.
Fill in for Van Fleet's injury.
Yes. Fill in for Van Fleet's injury. Fill in for in case Van Fleet wasn't hurt, but you wanted to give Kyle a couple games off, or just lessen Kyle's minutes in games too. That's why they got Jeremy Lin. He's a backup plan, and that's okay. And now that you don't really need him, cool. Nothing to worry about here. Let's get to some more comments. Someone says, only hockey fans are worried. I laughing at that, but it's so true, because sometimes when I hear people go on about this team is as good as last year's team,
exactly.
Like, those teams are not comparable. Like, do you know how I know that? Because Kawhi Leonard is better than DeMar. Do you know how I know Gasol's better than AV? Do you know how I know that? Because this year's Surge is better than last year's Surge. Do you know how I know that? Because Kyle Lowry, for the most part, has been healthy. Yeah. He's played a lot better.
Not so much pressure on him.
This year's Siakam is better than last year's Siakam by a lot.
The blow up,
right? So, like, what all these people are talking about.
Can I further this worrisome into a perfect segue into what I wanted to ask you and ask the fans? Because I don't know if we got to talk about it or you got.
Okay.
So the other game when the Lakers played, the infamous, I'm sure you guys heard.
Yeah.
LeBron was heard saying, "We'll keep in touch." To Kawhi. The media blew it up. Is this anything?
No, of course not.
It's not, guys.
Just like it wasn't anything with Kyrie and Kevin Durant. Like, first off, there's no context. You have no idea what they're talking about. There's so many different things that they could be talking about, including the fact that people might not know this, but LeBron James comes to Toronto every single summer for Carabana.
Yep.
LeBron James works out somewhere in Toronto while he's here. Is it at the ACC practice gym or Scotiabank Arena practice
OVO
gym?
one?
Or is it at the new OVO center? I don't know. Also,
shameless plug.
Yeah, but we know that LeBron also works out with Phil Handy, who's a Raptors assistant.
And that's the word, workout.
Yeah.
That's probably what it was, guys.
They could have been talking about anything.
Yes.
They could be keeping in touch about where to work out in LA in the offseason.
Well, they can't that's the kind of a good gesture that you say to most people anyways. I thought, when I first heard that, what I thought was, Well, like you said, either the Toronto side of thing or Kawhi's from Southern California. LeBron now lives in Southern California. They're probably going to work out together because if you've noticed about LeBron, he's a very, very smart man as well. And he might want to see what Kawhi does in his workout regimens. Take a little bit of that mix it in with his and every other little piece that he's taken from other encounters from great NBA players, right?
Okay.
Now, even if he tries to recruit him, guys, do you really think Kawhi is letting anybody alter his decision? He's got a very small inner circle, and it's his family.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that really is going to determine, if anything, whether or not Kawhi stays, signs, or does whatever he has to do in the offseason.
Also, too, if Kawhi's, it's not like LeBron saying, hey, keep in touch. You're like, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Well, LeBron told me to keep in touch. I'm going to go to the Lakers next year.
Good game, guys. Yeah, did you guys see what LeBron said to me? Nah. Kawhi is the last person who cares about that.
Like, what are we talking? Like,
the media's got to
That's
stir it up. Anyways, I thought we just had to at least touch on it.
Yeah.
That's it. It's nothing.
Let's get to some more comments, though, because lots of people here fired up. Someone says this Twitter account is actually called @KeepingKawhi on Twitter.
I like it.
But it says also talk about Moreland because all the hate Linsanity is getting seems a bit biased. Like he's our third string point guard. I mean, I'm not going to crush Moreland. It's his second game as well. Just like I'm not really going to crush Jeremy Lin. Like, was he playing well? No. But at the end of the day, he was here to fill time until Fred came back and to give Kyle a bit of a break down the stretch. I'm not going to crush
Jeremy Lin came with a lot of hype, and it's granted because, we just assumed that he would be the same Jeremy Lin as he was with Nick, and that's unfair. Right?
Also say like that he was with the Knicks for 2 weeks.
Yeah,
right.
Exactly.
And like real again, and I don't mean this to disparage
NBA
anyone, but like
heads.
real heads knew that Jeremy Lin isn't anything great. Although I will say I did hear on TV someone try to say that Jeremy Lin will prove to be a bigger acquisition than Marc Gasol.
Oh, wow.
I did hear that on TV by someone that will go on.
Who was it?
I won't say who it was, but I'll just move that along.
Yeah. Brush that.
But again, I'll follow that. Real people that watch basketball that know, like, crush Jeremy Lin for what? Like, he's here to fill time. Like, doesn't matter. More
complain
comments.
about the weather.
Yes. More comments here. We sweep the Pistons if we play them. Gentlemen sweep if the refs help. I also agree with that. Another comment. Ballers aren't worried about regular season Detroit. I definitely co-sign. First round is not going to be a problem. Give me a break. We've never played our full team against them. It's a sweep. Another comment, though, from Diaz, who's one of our regular guys here, always tuning in, says, having the most points in a game don't make you clutch. That's in reference to, because there's an argument going back and forth about dissing Kawhi, which I don't know how you're dissing Kawhi in this situation. But, hey, no problem there. I'm not going to really worried about that because, hey, not worried about Kawhi. There's a long argument here going on about is Kawhi being clutch, which, guys, like, again, clutch isn't just the very last basket. Clutch are the baskets that lead you to those last second baskets. And in this game, he was cooking. So I don't know. I don't know what you want from Kawhi Leonard. More comments, though. Not worried. We have vets who've been there in the playoffs and will step it up. Plus, Kyle will. More people saying they don't care about the regular season. Again,
the majority is
to further emphasize.
No one's scared. No one's scared.
I think
listen, I'm not scared either. Yeah. Although I started that off with, it's just when you go in the first round as was one of the higher seeds, a team that has aspirations to go to the finals. There's always, it doesn't matter who you face. It's always just let's get by the first round and wipe that sweat off your forehead.
Yeah,
it might be a gentleman's sweep. It might be 5. I'm just saying Detroit for some reason, and it's probably Coach Casey. They just play their balls off. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Against Toronto, right? Mm-hmm. Does it worry me where they're going to lose? No, but does it worry me where, I don't. Man, they're playing them good.
Yeah.
They're playing the Raptors good, but.
Yeah. The other thing, too, is further to your point, that's the way that Dwane Casey coaches. Yeah. If you remember, pound the rock.
Pound the rock, hard ass.
Night in, night out. And that's what you got to do when you're building a culture, where you're trying to change the culture from a losing culture to a winning culture. That's what you need to do. Casey did that. Again, we just talked about how many consecutive, like, solid, legitimate playoff winning seasons the Raptors have had. But now you're talking about getting to the next level.
Yes.
When you're going to the next level, part of that is realizing that there's a difference between games in March.
Regular season and games in the playoffs. Exactly. Yeah. And I mean, realistically, the Raptors outvet them by a load, right?
Yeah.
So
true. And for the record, I do have someone here in the Instagram chat calling me Mr. Sheldon. I'm not worried, Alexander.
Oh, another one of his many nicknames.
True. And I'll take it. But yeah, I would say for the most part, the people that are in the Instagram chat are saying that they are not worried about facing the Pistons. One thing.
Well, first of all, we're not even if the season ended today, we wouldn't.
Yeah,
because
we
face Brooklyn,
which no,
right?
I'm not worried about that either.
I'm not worried about Brooklyn.
Yeah. Someone says Bucks lost tonight, could have gained ground, and Brogdon is out, which could be huge for the Bucks down the line.
Giannis roll his ankle?
Giannis rolled his ankle, but I think he's okay.
He's back.
I think he's okay. Here's the thing. The other part about having playoff tested guys who have been there before, they're not really worried about first seed or second seed. I think Kawhi Leonard thinks he'll take the Bucks.
Whether it's Milwaukee or Toronto.
Yeah, they're not those guys. And I know this sounds weird, Raptors fans, but we got to remember, we're not used to this regular season not mattering like that, or seeding not mattering like that, right? Remember, I keep pointing to this. LeBron took the Cavs, that crappy Cavs team, as the fourth seed last year. No, fourth or fifth seed last year. And it didn't matter. When everyone was crying about the playoffs or the regular season mattering, and he's like, whatever, we just got to playoffs, and they made it all the way to the conference finals. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because when you have guys on your team that their expectations are championships or making the finals, seeding doesn't matter because you feel confident that you can beat anybody, anywhere, no matter what.
They made him to the finals.
LeBron.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. He's at conference finals. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
The finals.
More comments here. Glad to see Van Fleet back. Was wise to start him in the third quarter. Totally got to give credit for making that.
He had a splint on his thumb too.
Yes.
I mean, it was obviously wasn't a shooting hand, but I mean, it's got to be a little awkward, right?
Totally true. But we're as mentioned too, it's a left hand, which makes it a little less like it's not your shooting hand. Yeah. But still, you're awkward, a point guard, ball handling.
Exactly.
It's got to be a little odd for sure. Let's see. Looks pretty good here. There's so many comments. One says, I saw good chemistry from the Raptors, and it's good to see Gasol is slowly looking worth the trade. Van Fleet is a boss. Came back like he didn't miss a game. And that's the thing. You won't, like, the Van Fleet you see tonight, add Kyle Lowry into the game and think of that duo, right? It just doesn't stop.
Yeah.
And that's the Raptors at their peak.
48 minutes of good point guard.
Totally true. And I just think it's going to be
both guys.
It's going to be so fun to see when this team is fully healthy, and what's going to happen in the playoffs. The game slows down. Every possession is going to matter. But on top of that, defensive possessions are going to matter. And that's where the Raptors are going to win.
I have a question that so game 1, 2, 3, 4, whatever, playoffs. How many minutes should Kawhi average playoff time?
Whatever you need to win. If it takes 40 plus, cool.
Yeah, I mean, if you're blowing them out,
assume it's going to be 40 plus. Yeah.
It better be 40 plus.
Yeah. I'd assume like that.
Kawhi, I'm looking at you right in the mirror. Yeah, you're taking all these load management games.
Yeah.
You better be giving us 40 plus.
Yeah, I mean, right? it's all a go. I just mean, like, it's one of those things where when someone tells you that, playoffs is when they're going to lace it up, and we see it, like, again, I keep emphasizing this point, but the gears. There are certain games where you see Kawhi just like, oh, okay. He's that guy. Okay. And then you see games where, like on Friday against the Lakers, where that was a horrible game. And it looked like the Raptors, looked like a gym run at the Y.
Yeah.
Like both teams were uninterested. They're just going through the motions, jacking up threes, and you can just tell the difference.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter because the Raptors are good enough and they win that game anyways. Right? Like, that's just what I mean about how good this team is.
Well, then, that is the NBA season too long then? Is just to go maybe cut it down 8
it's a
10 games.
mentality of how much things.
So
have
do you think the
changed.
mentality would stay the same for majority of the NBA players if they cut it down to a 72-game season?
No, because I think they'd still find a way to be tired on back-to-backs or tired on whatever. And I also think just Kawhi coming off that injury also adds more so into his mentality this year.
LeBron being on a minutes restriction, talking for that game,
They're
obviously.
tanking. They're tanking now, right?
They just
And
lost
that's
to the
really what
Knicks
it is.
today, too, by the
Yeah.
way.
Like their minutes restriction LeBron thing is just they're tanking.
Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff going on. I'm sure you'll get to that on the Ball on Blast this week with Webby. You'll talk about that. But
that's a plug right
it's,
there.
yeah,
That's a plug. I like that.
it's getting a little crazy over there.
Definitely getting a little crazy in LA, and hopefully Raptors fans, we did enough to calm you guys down. But I understand. Hey, at the same time, I understand. It's not a good look to have
Detroit
Dwane Casey
plays them
go.
good, man. Yeah.
To have Dwane Casey go and beat the Raptors 3 straight times, it's not a good look.
I want them to play Detroit, and I think it would be a great matchup. A lot of narratives, right? And it would just start the playoffs off with a bang,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Close in proximity, a lot of Raptor fans in Detroit.
Yeah, I think it'd be a lot of fun.
Detroit is turning up the defense
Yes.
chance because they can't get over the Raptors fans.
They were piping in the audio over the loudspeakers.
Raptors fans, there you go, buddy. We travel well. We're one of the best traveled in the NBA.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
By far.
Definitely. I'm again, it's a good look for Dwane Casey. It's a great look for Dwane Casey and his Pistons as they try to rebuild their culture.
He gets them playing hard against us, yes.
Definitely. And the Raptors, you won 3 games against Casey, but again, I'm going to reemphasize this for the people that might have tuned in late. The first game the Raptors lost, they were up by 20, and they lost the game at the buzzer. The second game, there was no Kawhi Leonard, and they lost in overtime. And then you have this game where there's no Kyle Lowry, no Serge Ibaka, and the Raptors looked really good in spots of this game.
Yeah.
And then they
shot well. They just got rebounded, out hustled, and Detroit went to the line like 10, 12 more times. Which is a contributor
definitely
to working hard. Right?
Definitely agree.
But we got another game tomorrow.
Yeah, I mean, Raptors beat the Knicks. I'm assuming Kawhi Leonard's not going to play. Maybe Kyle Lowry will be back.
Yeah,
but either
Kyle will
way,
be back.
The most important thing is Fred VanVleet was back, and he looked great in this game. So that is a positive going forward. And really, the biggest positive is that we are 1 game closer to the playoffs. Because
please, I know.
That's what I'm saying. These games right now are going to be so tough because they're not going to, like, it's so difficult for them to move up or down, and it doesn't really matter. So it's like, yeah, it's going to be tough.
Yeah.
But just continue to look for Gasol to be better acclimated with the starters.
Which he was today.
Exactly. Gain more confidence with the starters. Fred being healthy, Kyle being healthy.
Yep.
Those are the things that matter the most. The results, the wins and losses, cool. More power to you, Casey. I'm happy. Casey was a nice guy. I'm happy for him to have these moments.
He deserves a green beer today.
Yes.
By the way, guys, the hat, Happy St. Patty's. I'm Irish for the day.
Hey. Happy St. Patty's Day to everybody.
Yep.
Thank you guys for tuning in to the Wrap It Up podcast. Mikey, where can people find you, my dude?
Again, hit me up in the YouTube comments. I want to shout out guy Fogarty.
Okay.
He said, and I agreed, I was always talking to you, and sometimes you really couldn't hear me on the mic. I apologize, guys. I got it. Hopefully I got it straightened out. It's perfect. Hopefully I sound crystal clear. But again, the comments, guys, we always read the comments on YouTube. It's a little community, and the comments within the comments and the little discussions, and that it's great. If you guys want to hit me up on Instagram, please do. Mike Bello _6. Thanks, guys.
Hey, and I am Sheldon Alexander. And of course, as Mikey mentioned earlier, shouts to you guys for tuning into this podcast, but as well, the Ball On podcast we do. It either comes out Thursdays or Friday mornings.
Something like that.
Something like that, depending on the NBA
check
schedule.
Check it out every day to see when it's out.
Really, it depends on when the Raptors play.
Yeah.
If the Raptors play on Thursday, then we record Wednesday.
You
if
and
the Raptors
Webby
play Wednesday, we
talk
record
about
it Thursday.
Everything, not just the Raptors. Everything, right?
Exactly. We talk everything NBA, have a lot of fun with that one, and almost as much fun as we have on this one as well.
Almost.
Hey. But this is the Wrap It Up podcast, which you can find, again, live on Twitter at Shell Alexander. And we take your comments and questions there, as well as on Instagram at Sheldon Alexander. This then becomes a podcast, which you can find wherever you listen to your on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play. Just search On Blast Podcast. Same thing goes for YouTube. Huge shouts to YouTube as that community continues to grow and represent. Starting to see people's comments where they'll say, hey, you guys keep telling me to come to the comments here, and I have been. It's pretty good. Right?
Yeah.
So it's funny to read those comments and see what's going on there as well. And people also seem to be appreciating where we shout out where people are listening from.
Yeah.
The last podcast was a huge shout because we had someone listening from Australia,
A
which I
couple
thought
from Greece
was pretty cool.
before.
Yeah. So
Edmonton.
as I go to the chat now and I see, hey, shout out to people in Stony Creek and Oshawa and Mississauga and Calgary, Montreal. Huge shout out to you guys, whether you are in Canada or the United States or anywhere else worldwide. We really appreciate you. Yeah, lots of listens in Korea and the United Kingdom,
Appreciate
Thailand,
it, guys.
Sweden. Shouts to all you guys. Really appreciate it. As
Well traveled. The Raptors. It's what it is, right?
The Raptors brand.
Raptors brand.
And again,
just a spoke.
Well, going back to the
conversation
I was having on the last podcast with the peoples and talking about the OVO stuff and why that matters.
It does matter.
This is why that matters.
Yes.
Drake goes on world tours, bigging up the Raptors brand.
Yes.
And so now I do a random Raptors podcast where there's people that tune in from, Kuwait.
All over.
Right? I didn't make. I literally just clicked on countries and I scrolled down a bit and I'm like, Kuwait, Sweden, Thailand, as I mentioned, Costa Rica, Singapore, Qatar, right? And it's
amazing.
Like, hey, this is the greatest Raptor season ever.
And this is your guys' podcast.
Yeah.
Right?
Really appreciate
We're just two guys that just talk.
Exactly.
Then you guys finish it. Right?
Exactly. We just do the talking for about an hour, and then you guys continue it for 24 hours, 7 days a week in between the games.
Perfect.
Really appreciate you guys because I really did used to pray for times like this to rhyme like this. This is the Wrap It Up on Blast Raps post-game show. As always, unpolished and unapologetic. Until next time, see ya.
Peace. Thanks, guys.
On blast.